Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is August 21st, and right now we're looking at the current weather infrared satellite imagery. If you look closely, you'll see a little lightning strike from the system already here off the North California coast. This will bring thunderstorms, mainly Cascades east as we go through the day tomorrow. You can see this morning there is some thunderstorm activity through eastern British Columbia here. Maybe this will extend down towards northeast Washington. We'll take a look at some of that here in a moment. Checking out the visible satellite imagery, you can see this low clouds banked all the way up to the Cascades here, engulfing the Oregon-Washington coast, straight to Juan de Fuca. The Willamette Valley is going to break out first, but most of the area should break out here this afternoon. But we might cut a degree or two off the high temperatures forecast just because the cloud cover looks like it may be a little bit more than the actual models suggest. You can see the glorious sunshine for eastern Washington. Another pretty warm day coming up there before this system brings some thunderstorms tomorrow morning. This is looking at, let's go ahead and scroll towards a Sunday morning. You can see it did pick up the low clouds here, but it didn't really have, I think the coverage was underdone a little bit here, so we might chop a degree or two, but it does show this burning off towards the afternoon hours here. Then you can see the thunderstorms rolling tomorrow morning across the region here. So we'll see about those high temperatures today. It shouldn't affect it too much, maybe a degree or two. Because Seattle yesterday, 77, that's the average high. And as this system goes through, we're really going to start to warm up again next week. We may flirt with a 90-degree day coming up here. We'll see if we're going to challenge any daily record highs with that heat coming up. This is for Portland yesterday, 79, average high is 82, so a little bit below average here. But again, this week we're going to warm up above average here, even for Portland, Seattle, and for Southwest BC as well. This is looking at Pasco. Look at this, Tri-Cities, 5 straight days, 100 plus now. We're probably going to end that streak here as we go on in through tomorrow, Monday. We're going to have that system move through, but we'll watch that coming up here. And then we're going to warm up again mid and later next week, of course. This is Spokane. National Weather Service doing a good job again with their graphics showing the 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. is the main threat for the yellow here across eastern Washington. Then for the afternoon, it shows some of the North Cascades, Okanagan Highlands, northeast Washington. Brief downpours, isolated lightning strikes, and some gusty winds possible. This is yesterday evening's European run here. You can see the system coming in here. Brings that precipitation signal there for eastern Washington, eastern BC. Shows a signal there for the Cascades as well, too. We'll see how that turns out. And as we go on in through Tuesday, the cold air hangs around, and this low kind of brings some wraparound moisture back through British Columbia for the North Cascades. And we'll continue to monitor that thunderstorm threat as well here coming up. Looking at the HRRR 3-kilometer resolution, this runs every hour. This is kind of a valuable tool just because it runs so often. You get a new update every hour. It's not the greatest model, but every 6 hours, 12Z, 18, 0, and 06, it runs out 48 hours. So we can kind of look at this. You see that system approaching the coastline here, brings a thunderstorm threat tomorrow morning. And then that's for eastern BC up towards the afternoon hours. Spokane was kind of highlighting that activity there. And then as we go through Tuesday morning, you can see it trail off a bit, but we may get some more thunderstorm development Tuesday afternoon. This is the NAM3KM. This is simulated infrared satellite imagery here. And as we go through, the NAM runs out 60 hours. Here goes our upper level low, bringing that thunderstorm threat across eastern Washington, Oregon, British Columbia for the afternoon. And you can see Tuesday afternoon, the cold air hangs around and kind of brings this wraparound moisture that starts to direct some of these storms back towards the higher terrain at BC and maybe the North Cascades. We'll continue to monitor that. Now looking here at what's coming up here for the next few days. This is the European yesterday. Let's go back to the afternoon so we can kind of run this out a little bit further. But you can see our system kind of scroll through here on Monday, and we quickly build a ridge back up here across the area as a trough digs down over the Gulf of Alaska. Here we build this ridge and we bring our above average temperatures on through later next week before we potentially cool down the weekend. And then another trough digs, and the position of this trough is going to mean everything. The models have kind of been in flux here on just where this positions itself. This is the deterministic run here in the European. We'll check out the ensemble here in a moment, but you can see a pretty vigorous Gulf of Alaska trough here. So we have to watch this closely. This could mean heat, or it could mean actually bringing precipitation chances into the Pacific Northwest. So let's go ahead and take a look at the GFS ensemble first here. This is the 06Z from last night. As we roll this through, there's Monday's system. Good agreement with building the ridge on through mid and later next week. Trough stays well out to the west here. Ridge hangs around, and as we go through into the following week, and you can see the GFS generally has the trough staying far enough west and the ridge being here. Now let's go ahead and check out the European ensemble mean. Let's back up to yesterday afternoon's run here, and let's check it out. You can see Monday system roll through, ridge builds. Here comes the heat. We warm up through later next week, and then you can kind of see it has this ridging here, but this is we're on a fine line here. This ridge looks a little bit far east as this trough tries to dig out. So we're going to have to watch for this discrepancy here. You can almost see this troughing would be affecting Pacific Northwest here. We'll have to watch that closely, but we have several days to watch that come up here. I mean, we're still talking about, we're almost 200 hours out there. So something to watch for now. This is the GFS, the deterministic, this morning's run. Let's update this so we have the most recent information here. And you can see Monday system roll through here. Ridge builds. Trough hanging out over the Gulf of Alaska as scheduled. And you can kind of see it drops down this trough across it. You can see here we've got some pretty significant model disagreement here, like with the GFS and its ensemble run here. So again, this is just one model run, but we'll have to watch this here as this trough is pretty vigorous out here. And if that ridge, hangs out a little bit further east, we could easily get more marine influence or even some precipitation here as a Pacific storm could even impact the Pacific Northwest. So we'll just continue to monitor that for now. Definitely something to look at for tomorrow's forecast. Looking at Tri-Cities again today, the European calling for 100, then potentially cooling down a little bit as we go on in through Monday, but then warming back up again mid and later next week, before we're still right around the 100-degree mark all the way in through the weekend and into early next week for the Tri-Cities out there. It's the Seattle-Tacoma. Check out some of the variability, and that shows what we were just looking at, that mean ridge and trough position. So pretty good agreement here through later this week, and even on Thursday we could flirt with that 90-degree day. Looks like Wednesday is a very warm day, also upper 80s for Seattle. Then we drop back down as the trough swings through, and then you can see some of this variability. I mean, some of the ensemble members, individual ones, even show up towards 100 degrees, but look at the control run, highs only in the 60s, and you can see the 90th percentile and 10th percentile are just kind of all over the place here too. Some big variation here as we go on in through the end of August. So we have the potential for heat, but we also have the potential probably for a little bit of precipitation, and that's just something to watch. Forecast confidence is low once we get towards the early portion on into mid the following week here. Are we going to deal with heat again, or are we finally going to start to bring some Pacific systems closer to the area? As you can see, just the wild swings and all kinds of uncertainty through the extended forecast there. Now looking at Portland, you got the same thing here. I mean, look at some of these individual ensembles have 110, but the control run and the mean run are definitely much more, obviously much more likely here. As we look at the control, is much cooler than the mean here. So you can see the variability again as we go through early and mid next week. But you can see until then, you can see Wednesday and Thursday look like very warm days into the 90s for Portland here. Now looking at 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, this was issued yesterday. You can still see the bullseye in the Pacific Northwest here. This is for August 26th to 30th. Monsoon season continues down here across the Southwest. Look at our 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, generally below average here, August 26th to 30th. Here's the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. Look at this all the way into early September. That bullseye is still on us here. That would bring some much needed precipitation. Looks like to Texas down there. 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook. You can see it here. This actually extends in towards Nevada and California there, so maybe some much needed precipitation for them out there as well. And this calls for September through early through mid-September. You can see the above average temperature outlook here across the region. And this would be for also early to mid-September, kind of a below average signal here for us in the Pacific Northwest. And here's a risk of hazardous temperatures experimental, kind of brings that excessive heat slight just towards the Puget Sound. That would include the Willamette Valley here. And you can see the excessive heat moderate does include eastern Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana here. And this is through the end of August. So anyway, yeah, you can see the uncertainty we have in the forecast coming up here. So we'll just continue to monitor that. I think tomorrow's model runs are probably going to show us, obviously they'll show us more. They're going to be more accurate, most likely. And they'll probably start to iron out some of the differences here coming up. So we'll watch that over the next few days. But yeah, you can see those thunderstorms across this eastern British Columbia this morning. They're going to do this for tomorrow across southeast Washington and through northeast Oregon. This system here is going to roll on through here. But in the wake of that system, we're going to warm up pretty quickly here across the Pacific Northwest. So we're going to deal with that warmth, and then they're potentially going to cool down. And then on the extended forecast, we have great uncertainties. We'll continue to monitor that. Hope you guys are enjoying these videos, and we'll do this again tomorrow, and I'll talk to you guys then.